Hello and a very warm welcome back to the Done Deal YouTube channel. And today we're joined with an EV, a very iconic EV. It's the Tesla Model Y, and this could very well be the electric car to buy. You see, prices start at about 47,000 euros, and for that you're getting a claimed range, or a WLTP range, of 455 kilometers, which is pretty decent, and you can increase that if you're willing to go for a long range one or a performance model, and those prices could go up into the late 60s and early 70s. One thing we know for sure is that Teslas are like Marmite. In fact, it's kind of the same for all EVs. People either think they're the best thing since sliced bread, or they absolutely despise them and they're taking all the joy out of a car. However, I'll leave that opinion to you, because what we do know is Tesla are revolutionizing the way people purchase cars. For example, if you want to buy a Tesla, there's no longer a dealership where you go down, you go for your test drive, you get involved in a negotiation, and then you wait 6 or 7 months to get your car. It's so different with a Tesla. It's kind of like buying an iPhone. You go on the website, you select what spec you want, and again, they come well loaded as a base model. And then after that, at the moment, the wait time is just 2 or 3 weeks from the looks of the website, which is pretty incredible. And that's not where it stops. If you need to get something serviced, if you have a problem with the car, it's all done through their very sophisticated and well-rounded app. You just submit a request and Tesla will actually come to you and fix it if it's something small. And it continues. Even with that app, you can actually set your climate control to turn on in the morning. So you go down, you get into a car, no fogged up windscreen, you have your heated seat on, heated steering wheel. It's just a whole different way of how a car works. It's not all good though. Tesla have been known to slash their prices from time to time, which is good for potential customers. However, for example, in 2019, they slashed the price of a Tesla Model S by about 20,000 euros. Sounds great. However, if you just bought one a few months previously, that's not ideal. So when you do go on the website and you start to spec out your Model Y, the first option you'll be given is which one do you want. There's 3 versions available in Ireland. The regular rear-wheel drive one, which has a 455 kilometer range. However, if you like to drive further, you can get the long range one, and that's got a range of 533 kilometers. Now, all of these ranges you can probably take about 10 or 15% off, depending on what time of the year it is, but that's the same across all EVs. Now, there is a third option, which is the performance one. It looks a little bit nicer, has some bigger wheels and a few other bits, and it has a claimed range of 514 kilometers, but more importantly, it has a 0 to 100 kilometer per hour speed of just 3.7 seconds, and that is faster than a Ferrari California. At the next point of speccing out your Model Y, you'll be given 5 different color options, 2 different wheel options, and then you can add some features, things like a tow bar, which is 1,350 euros, and can actually tow up to 1.6 tons, which is impressive. But then you get to the all-important and the real USB of Teslas, the driving aids. So the first is Auto Enhanced Pilot, and that is a good option and costs about 3,800 euros, but I think it's probably worth forking out the full 7.5 grand to get the fully autonomous driving capabilities, because down the line, this will mean that you can drive the car and actually not drive it, just sit as a passenger essentially, when the laws allow it. But it's constantly improving, and even right now it will change lane for you on the motorway, and you can nearly go about your day-to-day motorway driving with doing very, very little. So to drive, well, it's pretty good actually. I felt like it was going to be an SUV, it was going to be a little bit sloppy, but actually it's quite engaging to drive. The suspension's quite firm, so definitely over some low speed bumps you'll definitely feel it a little bit more than maybe some German rivals, but that said, it's still pretty comfortable, and the whole car feels very tight actually to drive, very well put together. It's very responsive. Obviously, if you've never driven an electric car, that right pedal, when you put your foot on it, it goes. But on top of that, just with the way it turns, where you point the steering wheel, it's very, very accurate. The standout feature for me this week hasn't actually been all those fabulous driving aids, the autonomous driving. It is wonderful, but the real standout feature has just been how good the regenerative braking is. Right now we're going down a hill, we're going about 50 kilometers per hour. If I take my foot off the accelerator, we come right down to a halt really, really quickly. And around town, coming to that full stop is just glorious. I drove yesterday for probably about 80 kilometers and I didn't touch the brake pedal once. The brake pedal is actually still clean down there because it literally hasn't been touched. That's a lovely, lovely feature. Now in terms of boot space, this is really why you go for a Model Y over a Model 3. It's quite a big and spacious boot. There's no load lip, you can sit here. You can even play with the toy car that Tesla have played. In fact, no, not just one, but 2 toy cars. Kids will love this. And actually it's quite a practical boot. This hangs over so you can kind of shelter from the rain. Obviously it's electronic, and you can actually just fold the seats in the rear really easy at a click of a button, which again, if you've got kids, you're loading the car, it just makes life a whole lot easier. Now, in the back, if we pop this seat right back up, it's quite spacious. One of the nice things about EVs is there's just nothing on the floor. It's completely flat. And actually this seat reclines. So if I just pop it back there, you can get in a really nice, comfortable position. Tons of knee room. The benefit of it being a Y is you've got the higher roof line, so loads of headroom. And panoramic sunroof or glass roof, I suppose it doesn't actually open. But again, it's just nice and it brightens up the whole interior. And that's it really back here. But I do want to talk about the front because that's kind of where you'll be spending all of your time. Well, the seats are actually really, really comfortable. They're heated seats and they're a lovely place to sit and very adjustable on the electronic controls. Steering wheel's quite plain, but not as plain as what's in front of the steering wheel, because for the first time ever, I'm driving a car with no speedo in front of me whatsoever. Even the old Model S had a speedo of some sort there. Instead, it's all in this center screen, which you will get used to, but it's bizarre at first. Looking at your speed down here is quite strange. And again, this is something that is controversial everywhere, and it's not just Tesla who are doing it, but a lot of manufacturers are now putting everything into the infotainment system, even your climate control, which is just a little bit frustrating. Now, the good thing is, as I said, you can set your climate control before you even get in here, but it is, when you're driving around, a little bit distracting. In fact, the system itself, it gets easy to use, but for your first week, you'll find yourself struggling to navigate your way through. Definitely, we could probably make a whole 15-minute long video on this infotainment system. My advice is probably to go for a test drive in one and see what it's like. But yeah, as a whole, it's quite a nice place to sit. Lots of storage everywhere, very, very comfortable. And it is just a lovely, ergonomically quite nice environment. It gives me major bachelor pad vibes. But anyway, let's go for a little bit of a drive. Now, as I said, everything is here. So I find having to look for my speedo there is quite unusual, and it has been taking a little bit of getting used to. But then the other thing that's kind of confusing is if you quickly want to touch your climate control, turn on your heated steering wheel, it is taking your eyes off the road. And nowadays, with so many cars with heads-up displays, you definitely feel like this is lacking that. Now, all your information is controlled through here. So everything down to your lights, your mirrors, your door is locked. It's all done through here. And actually the system's great, and you can adjust anything. You can literally adjust anything on this car. But 2 really cool features. One is that the car has cameras on it. So for example, if your car was broken into or someone crashed into it while you weren't at it, there's 360-degree cameras, and they'll actually record it so you can see the person doing it. So hit and runs are a thing of the past, and that is a really nice safety conscious. And you can actually just see those cameras. When I turn on my indicator left and right, my camera comes up there, and it's pretty decent quality, to be fair, as well. Now, another really good feature, and I'm going to say this is the reason that I would buy a Tesla over probably any other electric car. It's not because of the car itself, but the infrastructure that Tesla have. Those superchargers are exceptional. So there is 50,000 of them around the world. I think there's only about 9 or 10 in Ireland, but they are growing, and they're on great roads. So they're on nice motorways that you'd be using in long commutes as such. But they're quick, they're always empty in Ireland, and they're very, very reliable. And using public infrastructure is a headache in most EVs, but with a Tesla, it's just one less thing to worry about. And actually, Tesla are even upping their game there. And I was speaking to someone in Tesla Ireland, and they were saying they're building a 24-hour lounge in the fast charger in Sandyford. So when people plug in their cars for that half an hour, they'll be able to go in, get a nice coffee, sit outside. And last but not least, and I'll slow down for this one, let's talk about acceleration. Now, obviously this one is not the performance one, but it's still really quick. And this is actually a rear wheel drive version, and believe it or not, the traction is brilliant. Tesla are just unbelievable at traction control. Even in the snow, I've driven a dual motor Model S and it was just glued to the ground on summer tires as well. They do a fantastic job of traction control. So at the end of it all, should you buy a Model Y? It's up to you, just like any car. But there's definitely lots of pros, but there's also a few negative things. The biggest of which is these door handles do my head in. And I spoke to a taxi driver who had one day, and he said they're the bane of his existence. No one knows how to open them. But through all the reviews I've seen over the years, people complain about things like panel gaps and poor quality paint, but I haven't seen a single bad panel gap on this car. And what's more is, I know that Drive Tribe did a paint test on James May's Tesla, and they said it was as good as a Volkswagen. So that is as good as it comes. And the reality is, all those years ago, when we used to use those Nokia 3210s, Apple came along and they were a new company, and no one said Apple can't build phones. And it's the same with Tesla. They do a superb job of it. It's just maybe a little bit different to a conventional car. Anyway, that is it from us today. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.